Hello, Sleuth. My name is Ave. This is Cara Bear, and welcome to the video channel for Cara Bear Comics. Today is another character introductions video, this time for my team, Wonder Team. This is different of a team in a way, because they're all adapted from public domain characters. It's every single one of them is a character that has since entered the public domain, that when they were first published only were published for one story. So it was really easy to just pick up from there. The other conceit with it, not just of them only having one story, is that I took their first stories and changed the dialogue so it would fit for the team up and fit for the characterization I'd give them later. Same art, different dialogue, and then from the second issue on, it's been my art. So, it starts out really good, gets really bad, and then builds up a little because my art got a little better at the time. This was before I was doing Almighty Protectors. So there is that going on. But yeah, this was my secondary comic. At the time I was doing Care Bear Comics Unlimited. After a bit I started doing Wonder Team. And so, yeah, it's currently on hiatus as well, so there is that going on. Eventually I hope to get it started again, hopefully with an actual dedicated artist, or maybe I'll have time to do the art myself. But anyways, let's get back there and draw. This is actually the first time I'm doing an introduction without having drawn yet. So all the drawing you'll see will be after I've recorded the introduction and the outro. I just wanted to actually get the intro recorded already. So yeah. First up is Wonderson. Real name Fred Carson. Pronouns are he, him. He's adapted from the Will Eisner created Wonder Man. His codename changed because the name Wonder Man is a trademark of Marvel Comics. In story, his new name comes when he saves his love interest and, in her delirium, mushes the words wonder and person together. But as it is, Wonderson is a cis-het man who has Tibetan heritage but who was put under a glamour spell as a baby to appear white in order to keep from feeling the sting of discrimination in the early 20th century American society he would grow up in. He had an interest in mechanics from a young age and became an inventor. As an adult, he got a job as a radio engineer for a big city radio station where he became a valued employee before learning about his family birthright in Tibet. He went there and, after ensuring trials to assure the elders of his worthiness to acquire it, was given the object, a ring imbued with great power. Wonderson's ring is a magical item that grants him super strength and durability. He's also been learning that this is just surface level of his power, and he can also emit great energy from the ring as well. However, he still primarily focuses on the powers he's used to, which is the strength and durability. Wonderson is always ready to help people and has a disdain for people who have the resources to help but don't use them. His personality gives him an air of likability, and as such he is the de facto face of Wonder Team, the name of which comes from his own codename. Wonderson is not currently dating anyone, but is pursued romantically by Nora Hastings, the daughter of Fred's boss. Nora is one of two personalities occupying the same body of the boss's daughter and the more pleasant one. Her other personality, Brenda, is snooty and entitled, and Fred wants nothing to do with her or her fiancé. Wonder Man was originally created to be a ripoff of Superman. That's pretty clear, and he only didn't continue because National Publications, who would later become DC Comics, sued Bruna Publications, who would later become Fox Feature Syndicate, and won. Will Eisner has since said that he testified that he was ordered by the company to create a Superman ripoff, but transcripts from the trial say that he backed up his employers. But no matter what, later developments showed that a character like Wonder Man was nowhere near being something that should be legally considered a ripoff. But by then, Fox Features had moved on to other characters they'd started publishing, more original characters. Here are the finished inks. And this is a fully colored image. Next is Koilusa, real name Tsiyi. I don't believe I gave him a last name. Pronouns are he, him. He's adapted from the Paul Gustafson created Black Panther. However, like with Wonderson, Marvel owns the trademark to his original name, so his name was changed. As to the reason for that change, let's go into his history. C.E. grew up on a Cherokee reservation, married and had a child. Knowing the violence that white people could do to people like him, he honed his body and mind in order to be an instrument of protection and to use force if needed. Shortly after the birth of his child, he vowed to put it into use, wanting to do more than just protect the reservation, but be an instrument to change the system that oppressed his people. As such, he knew that just becoming a policeman on the reservation would not go very far, and so he used body paint to pose as a white man in order to join the city's police force proper. Luckily, he brought a superhero costume on a whim because he was just in time to see another hero, Jaguar Man, who you'll see later, in the middle of his own mission. Deterred from his original goal, C.E. suited up and helped the other cat-themed hero, deciding Black Panther was a way he could help. However, it was soon he realized how much more good he could do if he was a visibly native hero, so he ditched the body paint and changed his codename into one that in his people's language still translated to Black Panther, but was culturally relevant to him. Koilusa has no powers, but makes up for it in fighting prowess and tactical mind. While Wonderson is the face of Wonder Team, Koilusa is the field leader, the Batman to Wonderson's Superman. I don't know much about Black Panther's publishing history or why he got the one story. It seemed fine enough, and there's no indication why it didn't return. Maybe Centaur Publications just wanted to put something else in, maybe the artist decided to scrap the idea, or maybe it was something else. No matter what, Black Panther was not continued. Here are the finished inks. And this is a fully colored image. Since I compared the previous two to Superman and Batman respectively, it's only fitting that this one should be next, as she's in the same sense equivalent to the team's Wonder Woman. This is Amazona, pronouns are she, her. She's adapted from the Wilson Locke, Alex Bloom, and Dan Zolnarovich created Amazona the Mighty Woman. Amazona is a cis-lesbian woman from a tribe of isolated yet technologically superior people who hail from an island in the North American Arctic. Her people's technical know-how and superior bodies are the result of alien abduction and testing. This left them as a bluish-skinned people, but they've found access to magic in order to place a glamour over themselves to appear whatever race the observer is most comfortable with. This civilization was visited by the lone survivor of an exploratory expedition, newspaper reporter Blake Manners. He caught the interest of Amazona, who was fascinated by the idea of an outside world and wanted to see if there she could find herself free of the prejudices of her own society. Therefore, she accompanied Blake and helped him return home, and he got the wrong impression, thinking her interest was romantic. When there, Amazona found out that she could help by thwarting crime, as her natural strength was quite above that which unpowered humans could achieve, and her knowledge of her culture's martial arts helped in that regard. Still pursued romantically by Blake, Amazona still found the ability to woo those she truly desired, and is currently in a relationship with an Irish woman named Siobhan. Amazona has very formal speaking patterns, has an overly practical approach to all aspects of her life, and has a matter-of-fact way of addressing Annie's subject, no matter how delicate. She defers tactics on the team to Koilusa, since she feels he would know the world she now inhabits better, and she respects his intelligence and ability, but she isn't afraid to contribute her own ideas, acting essentially as his lieutenant. The Amazona story actually predates Wonder Woman. The original let her go to the US because she was in love with Blake, and it's all too easily a precursor to Diana Prince, but I don't know if William Moulton Marsden had ever read the story. I mean, it could be weird if he just happened to create a character with nearly the same backstory, but it could have happened. I mean, I changed hers from my version, as the original was much closer to DC's character. Considering Fiction House never pursued litigation against National, though, it's possible the original version of Amazona was considered too forgettable. Here are the finished inks. This is a fully colored image. And now we're on to TNT, real name Tanya Thorndike, pronouns are she, her. She's adapted from the Dan Gormley created TNT. Tanya is a lesbian trans woman as well as a chemist. Before transitioning, she worked in a university science lab with a colleague who tried to get her to socialize more. However, Tanya still found herself alone one day when she did what should have been impossible and split an atom without the help of cutting-edge scientific equipment. Directly upon observing the split atom, she heard of a kidnapping and decided she would help. In a speed even she acknowledged was rather fast, she was able to fashion a gun that would harness the atomic energy, donned the costume she was going to wear to a costume party, and set out to thwart the criminals. She succeeded, but in the process was mistaken for another criminal. At first using this mistake in order to infiltrate the underworld, TNT soon found herself pursued by Koiluso, which led to her being there for the Wonder Team coming together, and after a lengthy adventure, the team went public and TNT was exonerated. By this time, she'd come out to herself and the team, and modified her costume, not only to be more feminine, but also to be able to expel atomic energy from her gloves, as well as from her boots for flight. She still keeps the gun for sentimental purposes. The energy she creates can come in the form of atomic blasts, but can also work as a sort of force field to deflect bullets. Her ability to create such effective weapons and harness nuclear power so easily, meanwhile, could possibly be superhuman. While she's currently single, Tanya does still put herself out there. Her regular life, though, has been in an upheaval since she's begun living as herself, since the Wonder Team world is very firmly in the 1940s. Luckily, she'd at least make sure she wouldn't be identified while in costume, wearing prosthetics as a superhero to look pudgier than she is in real life. I'm pretty sure TNT was originally inspired by the Green Hornet. I mean, there's no Kato character, but he has an atomic gun instead of a gas gun, and is a hero who's mistaken to be a criminal. My assumption is that Centaur Publications could have continued having him work to take down the criminal underworld from within, and the stories could have been fun, albeit derivative. I might have had my version do that, but I wanted her to be part of the team, and you can't be on a public superhero team and also pretend to be a criminal, at least not so easily, so things were changed. Here are the finished inks. And this is a fully colored image. Next is on to Jaguar Man, real name Steve Lane, pronouns are he, him. He's adapted from the Jack Lane created Jaguar Man. Steve is a cis bisexual man and a zookeeper for big cats. He was dating a geneticist and helped the man in his experiments in creating a serum that might give cats human-like intelligence. In order to make sure the serum was safe to be tested on his favorite Black Panther, Ebony, Steve took the initiative to be the first test subject. Unexpectedly, the serum gave Steve cat-like abilities of heightened senses, agility, and dexterity, as well as cheetah-like super speed, and the ability to intrinsically understand cats. When Ebony was given the formula, she wasn't able to speak, but Steve was able to converse with her like she was a normal human. Steve then took to the streets as Jaguar Man, with Ebony at his side, and it was during his first case that his biggest failure happened, as he wasn't there when his boyfriend was accosted and killed by people who had discovered his sexuality. Luckily, the aid of Black Panther, later called Koiluso, made sure that the case itself wasn't also a failure. Ever since, Steve has felt it best to keep romantically distant from people, even while physically promiscuous. He's an incorrigible flirt and is always ready to make a joke laden with innuendo. Ebony tends to be the one with the cooler head, but she needs Steve present in order to communicate. Now, I should mention that originally I wasn't going to include Ebony in this drawing. However, unlike Sonia, American Cowboy's horse on the Defenders of America, Ebony is actually more a member of the team, essentially its 8th member. Therefore, I had to include her. The drawing is terrible because it's rushed, and while I also disparage my art, I'm trying to rein that in a bit, but I do blame my overall skill regardless. But yeah, now it looks like Jaguar Man is reaching back to pet her, but he was originally just supposed to be striking a sexy but heroic pose. Anyways, Jaguar Man is listed in various places as having 2 stories, but considering the second story gave him a different civilian name, his cat had a different name, and it had a different creator, I'm inclined to say they're 2 different characters with the same code name and costume design. Fox Features already had a history of copying characters after all, might as well have it be one of their own this time. The other Jaguar Man is one I've wanted to bring into the Wonder Team story at some point though. Here are the finished inks. And this is a fully colored image. Now we have Marksman, who has no real name, pronouns are he, him. He's adapted from the Abel Seidman and John Steiga created Marksman. Marksman is a cis-gay man and roving superhero. He was trained from a young age by a father who was mentally unwell, feeling his son needed to succeed him as a Secret Service agent and be perfect at the job. Anything that was considered by the man to be a distraction from that pursuit was cast aside and discouraged. One of those distractions was a name, which Marksman's father considered superfluous. However, this ran into a problem when Marksman eventually did apply for the Secret Service, as without a name there was no way to verify that he was even a US citizen. This compounded with his father's insistence that his son wear the colors of the American flag in order to truly show his patriotism. The outfit just looked like a clown to those in charge. His father pushed him to show the government his skills by becoming a superhero, and so the Marksman identity was born. Not long after, Marksman's father died of a heart attack, and his son now traveled the world alone and directionless, except knowing he needed to use his skills to help others. These skills primarily manifest in his marksmanship abilities, able to turn any object he can throw into a deadly weapon. It's come in handy as a member of Wonder Team, as he can be the one to strike from afar. Wonder Team has also helped open Marksman's eyes to new possibilities. Friendships and romance were considered distractions by his father, the only attachments permitted being colleagues. Anything even close to an intimate relationship was always espoused as something that must be done in order to further the genetic line, but nothing more, and his father was disgusted every time that he saw that his son was looking at other men in that way. But the team has softened Marksman's approach to friendship and has helped him come out to himself, in part because Jaguar Man's incessant flirting kept making sure he couldn't ignore those aspects about himself. Marksman's original version was really a bit boring, I'd say. It's no wonder he faded into obscurity when a character like Green Arrow had a similar ability but more interesting aspects. Plus, Marksman is just a generic name, and Centaur Publications wasn't the only one to publish a character with such a moniker. But this actually helped me because I felt I could pull more away from who he was originally in order to create my own version. And here are the finished inks. And this is a fully colored image. And lastly, we have Electric Ray, real name Ray Brandon, pronouns are he, him. He's adapted from the Martin Filchock created Electric Ray. Ray is a cis man who hasn't revealed his sexuality, if he has one. He was working for a top-secret government manufacturing plant, which was disguised as a train yard, when he found out that one of his colleagues was a saboteur. In the process of trying to stop him and his fellow saboteurs, Ray fell through the skylight of a building and into the station's electric transmitter. Unbeknownst to Ray, an alien entity made up of electric energy, which had been studying humanity for centuries by disguising itself as one of them, had recently found itself trapped in that same transmitter. Because of this, Ray was thrown free of the device, seemingly unscathed. However, he quickly realized that his body was now charged with electric energy. Knowing nothing about the entity, Ray simply went back to his attempts to stop the saboteurs, accidentally killing his colleague in the process due to him not being able to control his power yet. Ray soon found himself embroiled in the adventure, which brought together Wonder Team for the first time. In the process, he found that the room housing the transmitter was a cordoned-off crime scene, human body parts everywhere. It was only later that they began to piece together the truth. Ray Brandon was dead. The being who believed himself to be Ray Brandon was instead the energy being, freed from the transmitter as it made contact with Ray, absorbing his memories but forgetting its own. This new Ray now questions who he is really, refusing to forego his old identity, but realizing the life he knew isn't his. In the end, he knows that the team will accept him without question, and that's enough for now. I'm not sure why Electric Ray never returned, but maybe Centaur Publications just didn't have any faith in him as a character. Could be that since he doesn't have a flashy costume, he was pushed aside for those that did. Not to mention it was hard to go quite as far with someone like him who didn't seek out crime in his story, only reacting to one happening near him. I don't know. He's been fun to fiddle around with, though. And here are the finished inks. And this is a fully colored image. So, that was Wonder Team. This comic will be eventually at least continued on a bit. The last story I did for it did kind of end abruptly, and I may go back and actually try to finish that. I am planning to bring back the characters, whether or not I continue on with this comic. Every comic here, no matter whether it continues or not, I'm going to continue on with the characters at least. But, as it stands, next video, don't know what it's going to be. It might actually be talking about... I've been thinking of doing a video talking about what I plan to do if this channel ever gets to be any bit of a size. I've wanted to do a video talking about selling out and how, yeah, I'd sell out. I have no money. So But yeah, no, I wouldn't want to sacrifice my integrity, but I would do ads. But anyways, as it stands, the next character introductions video will be the last character introductions video. It's going to be about just it'll be the only one that is not actually centered around any particularly named team of any sort. So the thumbnail is going to be interesting, but it's going to be about 8 characters that I have that have also been sort of main characters in their own way in these other separate little things. So it's just to sort of wrap up all my main characters that I've had. And then after that, I'm going to be, instead of character introductions, going to be doing story videos. If you just heard that, the cat is currently meowing at me. And so he wants something. So I'm going to need to end this video anyways. So I'll say, like with every YouTuber thing, I always dismiss this every single time. You know, like, comment, subscribe if you want to, but no pressure. I understand. I've gotten, I think, 1 comment so far, and it was somebody who admitted to using a translator for it, and I couldn't understand much else in their comment. So, you know, I've got 1 incoherent comment that I hope it was somebody that liked my video. For all I know, it was somebody who didn't like my video. Regardless, I'm going on too long. But yeah, if you want to like, comment, subscribe, I'm not going to be like, how dare you not do that sort of thing. But as I always say, what you need to do, this is a requirement, is have a good day.